Are you ready to step beyond the threshold of the unknown? To push past the limits of perception and uncover the mysteries of dimensions beyond time and space? Welcome to Timeless Gates. Experiences beyond the veil, where we share near-death experiences of people who say they have visited the other side and returned. Today's NDE is by Rendy. Here is his experience. I woke up all sweaty. I know I heard my mother calling me, but I couldn't move. I hadn't been out late the night before, so I wasn't so tired that I couldn't get up. It was just that I couldn't move. I closed my eyes, hoping that the residual sleep would go away because I had to get up to go to school. My mother was calling me again, and when I opened my eyes, I saw that she had left the light on for me. I wanted to get up and get ready for school, but I couldn't move. I knew that something was absolutely wrong. I wanted to call someone for help to make me move, but I couldn't get my voice out. I thought I should have been scared, but I also knew that someone had to come and help me. I heard someone knocking on the front door and my mother letting someone in. Maybe she could help me. I closed my eyes again. When I opened them, I thought I had to do something ASAP because I was about to fall asleep again. I had to get my mother's attention, who was currently talking to a neighbor. I used all my strength and concentration to move my arms, and they fell limply to my sides. I could feel my eyes closing again. When I opened them again, I knew I only had a few minutes to call for help. I heard my mother calling me again. I tried to answer, but my sister in the other room at the end stifled my feeble attempt to speak. I felt like I was burning from the inside. I needed help. I tried again to raise my arms, using every ounce of strength and trying to push them away from me. I fell off the bed and rolled a short distance. I closed my eyes again. I opened them and managed to build up enough strength to crawl about a foot, dragging the rest of me behind me. I lost all my strength and saw everything black. I was starting to get really scared, but I knew if panic got to me, I would die right there on the floor of my bedroom. I tried to fight again a little, trying to pull myself up. Then I had to stop. It felt like the back of my head was on fire and my arms were made of jelly. I knew I had no strength left, and I knew I was going to die. I was wondering what else I could do when, with a last breath of energy that came from somewhere, I hit the wall and I screamed, "Mom!" I heard people running through the house and I knew someone was asking me what had happened. Then I closed my eyes. When I regained consciousness, I was in an ambulance. I remember the loud wail of the sirens and the closeness of the people who were with me. Yes, it made me feel a little better. After all, I wasn't dead. I opened my eyes and saw the sad looks of the people who were close to me. I knew it wasn't looking good for me. I could feel my arms and legs again, but I wished I didn't feel them. My whole body was on fire. I could feel the heat coming from inside me, like a heat wave. I could feel the heat coming out of my body, but the pain in my arms and legs and the back of my neck and back was excruciating. I wanted to tell the people who were there that I was suffering too much, but I fell into a deep sleep. Amazing. Couldn't open my eyes, but I was awake again and the pain was back. But I knew I wasn't in the ambulance anymore. I just hoped the pain would stop. A hand opened my eyes and hit them with a beam of light. I felt the pain go from my eyes straight to my brain, but I couldn't do anything about it. I fell asleep again until I felt several hands touching me to be moved from the stretcher to the bed. When I finally managed to open my eyes, I saw several people around me. I wondered what was wrong. Then I was put in a coital position and they stuck a needle in my spine. When I woke up and was put back in an ambulance again, I could see my father's look on his face. He was there and looked like he was in pain. I felt really bad for him. Someone told my father to follow the ambulance and I hoped he was okay. I also wondered why I had to be moved to another place. I closed my eyes again. I opened my eyes and felt a stinging. I was in another hospital, this time in a bed, and my head was tilted on one side as if I was sleeping. There was my mother, looking at me, and in a whisper I asked her, "Mom, am I going to die?" She said everything would be okay. I heard people running through the house and I knew someone was asking me what had happened. Then I closed my eyes. When I regained consciousness, I was in an ambulance. I remember the loud wail of the sirens and the closeness of the people who were with me made me feel a little better. After all, I wasn't dead. I opened my eyes and saw the sad looks on the faces of those around me. I knew things weren't looking good for me. I could feel my arms and legs again, but I wished I couldn't. My whole body was on fire. I could feel the heat coming from within me, like a wave of heat. I could feel the heat escaping my body. But the pain in my arms, legs, neck, and back was excruciating. I wanted to tell the people around me that I was suffering too much, but I fell into a deep, amazing sleep. I couldn't open my eyes, but I was awake again, and the pain had returned. But I knew I wasn't in the ambulance anymore. I just hoped the pain would stop. A hand opened my eyes and hit them with a beam of light. I felt the pain shoot from my eyes straight to my brain, but I couldn't do anything about it. I fell asleep again until I felt several hands touching me, moving me from the stretcher to a bed. When I finally managed to open my eyes, I saw several people around me. I wondered what was wrong. Then I was put in a fetal position and they inserted a needle into my spine. When I woke up again, I had been put back into an ambulance. I could see my father's face. He was there and he looked like he was in pain. I felt really bad for him. Someone told him to follow the ambulance and I hoped he was okay. I also wondered why I was being transferred to another place. I closed my eyes again. When I opened them again, I felt pressure and a sting. I was in another hospital, this time in a bed, and my head was tilted to one side as if I had been sleeping. There was my mother looking at me, and in a whisper I asked her, "Mom, am I going to die?" She told me everything was going to be okay. I remember being put in the fetal position again, and I felt them stick another needle into my spine. But this time, it didn't hurt. I saw the doctor examining the fluid he had just extracted. It was brownish in color with some large specks in it, which turned out to be blood. He said something quickly, and I passed out again. I was still unconscious when they brought me to a room with a large bathtub, where they filled it with a large amount of ice. The ice melted into warm water as soon as it touched my body. I had a fever of 103 degrees, about 39.4. I don't know how long I was there. The last thing I remember was the doctor telling my parents that I had to be quarantined. I couldn't move or open my eyes. I could hear everything happening around me, but it was as if I was listening to a radio broadcast. Then I slipped back into that beautiful, peaceful sleep. The next thing I heard was that I was in a coma. I could hear people talking, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. It felt like they were speaking a foreign language. Really strange. I heard my mother talking to me about baseball. She was explaining what was happening to me using baseball terms. I was a player, and I had to hit the ball out of the stadium to win the game. I tried to follow everything she said, but I couldn't keep up. I heard my parents talking to the doctor, who told them I had a blood clot the size of a baseball behind my heart. It needed to be drained immediately, or I would die. He said there was only a small chance I would survive the delicate procedure, but it was the only option. They would insert a tube through my leg and somehow guide it up to my heart. I couldn't hear anything else because I passed out again. Even though I was in a coma, sometimes I could hear what was going on around me, but I couldn't move or speak. I woke up in the middle of the operation, just as the tube was being inserted. They couldn't give me any anesthesia because I was already in a coma. Someone shouted, "Flatline!" Then darkness. I didn't stay in the dark for long. I felt like I was moving, but I knew I wasn't on the table anymore. In front of me were thousands of colors. It felt like I was watching the northern lights. Then, as if one of the rainbows of color had seen me, it came right toward me and lifted me up. I could feel myself moving along the rainbow as if it were solid, kind of like an escalator, except I was sitting. I was watching the colors as I rode along the rainbow. Then, like a wave, one of the colors hit me. I was immediately flooded with an emotion. Emotion was the only thing I could feel, and it was quickly replaced by another, and then another as I continued to be struck by these colors, each one made of pure emotion. I felt pure rage, absolute love, jealousy, fear, joy, and others I can't even name. I was completely immersed in these feelings until another emotion flowed through me. I was becoming part of the rainbow. I knew I was dead, but I didn't know what that meant. I looked beyond the rainbow I was on and saw other rainbows. I wondered if there were other people on those other rainbows. The colors began to fade, as did the emotions that had flooded. Eventually, I arrived at what looked like a dock. I stood up and stepped off the rainbow, and it felt like I was in a gray, misty place. It almost looked like a cave. I saw a figure approaching, and I started to feel better. It was my dead uncle. I stood before him, and he told me I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I looked around and saw a very bright light off in the distance to my right. He nodded and said, "Yes, that's heaven." I looked back at him, and he held out his massive hand. When I took it, I saw things, but only in my mind, which was now filled with knowledge. The exact moment he touched my hand, I knew everything that could be known or ever would be known, except for one thing. He looked at me and told me I had a choice. I could go toward the light and enter heaven where he would guide me, or I could go back because it wasn't my time yet. In the next second, I was pulling the sheet off my face. I was back in the hospital, surrounded by other dead people waiting to be taken to the morgue. I opened my eyes. I felt fine. I heard a chilling scream and saw a nurse run out of the room. Moments later, a group of people rushed in. I later found out I had been declared dead, and I had been dead for 32 minutes. I also found out that 14 students in my school had contracted spinal meningitis, and I was the only one who had survived. Number 14. They tested me for the disease but found no trace of it in my body. They asked me to stay in the hospital for 2 more weeks to study what had happened and why I was still alive. During testing, they took blood samples, countless x-rays, tested my mobility, and asked lots of questions, but no one asked me about the time I had been declared dead, and I didn't tell anyone because they didn't seem interested in anything except why I was still alive. The doctor told me that the day I left the hospital, I'd be in the medical history books. I walked out feeling fine. When I came back, I felt all the knowledge my uncle had given me slowly fading. I knew it would only be a matter of time before it was completely gone. Soon after leaving the hospital, strange things started happening. Every time I got close to a TV or radio, it would change stations. If I went near a lamp, it would shut off. Not just the lights in the house, street lamps. 2. Other electrical devices would go haywire when I got too close. Then all of that stopped too. This experience left me with a gift. Later on, while taking an IQ test, I realized I had gained points. My score was 175, but it wasn't like I had gained new knowledge. It was more like I don't know how to explain it. It felt like I had already been programmed with it. There was nothing from the experience I could consciously relate to in my life, and even now, I don't know how to use my full potential. It's like there's a missing piece to the puzzle. People have told me many times that I'm a miracle, that I have a purpose to fulfill, or that I need to do something because I never made the choice my uncle gave me. I have no doubt it was a miracle. But as for the purpose, I'm still waiting.
If this journey has inspired you, support us with a like and subscribe to Timeless Gates, the portal for exploring dimensions beyond time and space. Your support makes a difference. Join us and become part of this great awakening.